Hi there, I am Laina Orlando and welcome to my classroom. What I want to share with you is something that has just absolutely gotten activated in my heart today, and it is probably one of the most important lessons that I will ever put out there. And I've been teaching since 2007. I have been helping people become self-aware, realize who they really are. Through the self-awareness process is how we come to the place of awakening. You can't wake up if you're not self-aware. You cannot be self-aware though and not move in the direction of awakening if you continue to do the work that is necessary. And what I'm going to share with you today is going to make it really clear why it is that becoming self-aware is so important, because you cannot wake up if you're not aware of what I'm going to put on this board for you today. If what I share with you appeals to you, just know that I'm a teacher of spiritual principles. I also like to weave politics, spirituality, sovereignty, all of those things. I like to weave them together because humanity is in a process of ascension. What ascension means is that we are rising in our awareness. We are becoming more clear about what it is to be a divine human being. We are not just physical bodies. We are spirit embodying this physical vessel. And that is how we're going to be able to create a new earth, a world where we get along, a place where peace is simply the beginning. World peace is just the beginning of what's possible when we all have become clear about who we really are. And the way you become self-aware is to know that inside of us are two voices. This is why the old biblical teaching said that you can only be master, have one master. You can't have two masters. So today, I am going to break down for you a very simple understanding of something that not only is it profound, but it is absolutely necessary for us to wake up. If you enjoy my teachings, you can go to my website, lainaorlando.com, subscribe to my YouTube channel, or whatever channel you're watching this on, because I'm posting it in all my social media avenues. And just know that the bulk of my teachings I do from a book called A Course in Miracles. These teachings have transformed my life. Now, I began to use those teachings when I was guided to go there, but I listened to guidance from the consciousness that we would know as Jesus. It is the consciousness of God, Source, Spirit, whatever you want to call it. It is nothing more than us tapping in. It's like where Einstein tapped in when he got a formula, or where a singer goes to, or a songwriter when they're receiving a new song, something that's never been written before. Poets tap into this intelligence, and many of us are tapping into this. Some people are called channels, some are like me, I just received guidance. That's it. I received guidance and I have to share it. And today, this is the message that we really need to be paying attention to. Humanity is on a trajectory. As I said, we are awakening. There is no way to avoid what's coming. It is, as some people have said, of biblical proportions because it has been explained in the Bible for thousands of years. I am not a Bible expert, so I don't get into the Bible a whole lot. I am a student and a teacher of A Course in Miracles, so I do dive into that as well as other resources. But I also primarily use the guidance that I receive internally to gauge whether or not something is appropriate for me, whether it's true for me or not, because I have become very clear of my vibrational field, my energy field. I am very comfortable sensing what is true and what is not for me. So I want to share this with you to help you understand that the chaos that the world is in the midst of right now, and this video is being recorded in July of 2021, the chaos that we're in the middle of is going to intensify. Now, those who have blinders on, you can't avoid the chaos. You're just going to go at it without awareness. If you are one who has been taking the blinders off, maybe they're not fully off. By that I mean you're somewhat self-aware. Maybe you're very self-aware, but you haven't quite fully awakened. If you're not fully awake yet, you don't understand how powerful you are yet, and you still experience some fear. If you are fully awake, you are aligned with only one voice inside of you. You have picked one master. You don't have two masters anymore. Self-awareness is becoming aware of two masters. To be awake, you have chosen only one master. So I'm going to lay out what these two masters are all about. And I'm going to use terminology that is very common in spiritual realms. It's very common in some Christian realms, and it is hopefully plain enough for anybody who is not in either of those realms to pick up on what I am sharing, because it is actually I'm going to say in many ways it's scientific. It's science. It's truth. It's so relevant for what is happening right now. And I'm using the simplest language that I can possibly use to help you understand why this is one of the most, well, it's the most amazing time any soul has ever experienced on planet Earth. And the reason is because we are in the midst of a great awakening, and we have to make a choice. The world is, as we know it, is bifurcating. There is a division taking place. There is a light and a dark that is taking place. And you need to understand these two voices in your head so that you can choose the one that is going to move you towards the light, towards the truth, so you can see clearly. Because if you choose the voice for darkness, you are going to stay inside with the blinders on, and what's going to be happening, what is happening already and intensifying as we go, is going to create a lot of fear for you, because you'll have your eyes closed and you will know that there's chaos, but you won't know how to navigate it. You won't have the sight to see. So here we go. We are in the midst of a shift from the 3D world. This is the world run by the ego. That is our master, where we are totally and completely connected and associated with all things that have to do with human. It is about separation, and in separation, everything operates plus or minus, good or bad. This is the world of duality. Because everything is good or bad, we are always operating from fear. Because fear is what has us want to avoid the bad, and fear is what propels us to look for the good. And this happens because we're not clear about the essence of who we really are. So this is the 3D world that we have been living in. This is the reality that we believe is all that is true for us. What is happening to us is that we are in the process of ascension to the 5D world. This is the world of God, or divinity, or creator, whatever you want to call it. Change the name so that it feels comfortable to you. In the world of the ego, we need to understand our divinity. We have heard that we are divine beings having a human experience. However, those who listen to the voice of the ego has been their master. They have taught us that our divinity, God, is outside of us, not inside of us, for very deliberate and nefarious reasons. It's all about control. You're going to see that in a second. When we understand who we really are, God is inside, we claim our divinity, we now begin to operate in oneness. We realize that we are energy. When you know that you are energy, you realize you do unto others as you want done to yourself. Giving and receiving are one. Cause and effect makes sense that you want to operate from your divinity, because when we recognize that we are one, we see ourselves as equal. No longer in polarity, good or bad. It's the same. There is a sameness for everybody that honors all diversity. So here, when we're in separation, some diversity is good, some is bad. Different people, some are good, some are bad, depending on the programming that you receive. And when we all understand that we are equal, we operate with love. That's it, plain and simple. But here's something that is so important that we have to understand. When we are operating in the 3D world, everything that we do is to lead us to a place where we feel safe. When we understand the truth of who we are, leads us to a place where we feel sovereign, reign. We are in dominion of who we are, And when everybody is in dominion of who they are and we operate in integrity, this is pure freedom. There is no other way to be free than to listen for the voice of love that lets us know that we are all one, that through our divinity, we know that we are here to bring the love and the light that we actually are and embody it on planet Earth. Humanity, for thousands of years, since the beginning, has been operating primarily in the ego. We descended, we are born, we are indoctrinated into believing that we are just humans. The ego mind creates all kinds of stories. In the ego, we receive programming. Whatever environment teaches us, we receive, and that becomes our identity. Once we become identified with a certain belief system that makes us as human being that is separate, then we start finding the groups that are good, avoiding the groups that are bad, and everything is done from fear, because fear is really what runs our lives. We seek safety when we listen to the voice of the ego. Humanity for thousands of years has been on a bridge. We were all born and ascended from a higher realm. You can see that in a little child. A little child is absolutely pure love and one with everybody. It doesn't have favorites. In the beginning, there are no favorites. You take care of its little body, because in its humanness we have body that needs to be taken care of, but it is pure love and light. Until we march it down through the conditioning, fill its ego mind with programming, give it an identity, and then it becomes who it is. It becomes a Republican, a Democrat, it becomes atheist, a Muslim, it becomes this culture, that culture. It becomes who it becomes and believes in right and wrong and operates for the rest of its life in fear. Well, when you operate in fear, you literally become a slave, because you are now operating with a programming that is controlled through fear. Once you realize what is good, you want to avoid the bad. And if your mind is programmed that money is good, you're going to avoid being poor. If you're programmed that it is good to have a big house, that to have all kinds of things, you're going to chase money, because that's what satisfies the identity that you have money. Again, the programming. You're going to do everything to avoid not having money. If you believe that status is important, you're going to do everything in your programming that feeds the egoic mind, that becomes your master, to become somebody. When you operate inside of that programming, and safety is the most important thing to one who operates from ego, because safety is what lets us know that I'm okay. But it's a safety that I need the world to operate and behave in a certain way. If I'm conditioned, my money, my health, my love, my relationships, everything that I have comes from the outside world, I need to make sure that that is safe and it doesn't move. And in the world that we're in right now today, we are seeing things that are moving, that are shifting, that we can't count on anymore. The last thing the world is right now is safe, because we're on an ascension. And I'm going to flip this in a minute so you can see what I mean. We are in an ascension. What that means is that we have to cross this bridge. And the only way to cross that bridge is with an incredible amount of honesty, question our programming, undo this identity that all we are is a separate human, taking care of myself, seeking safety to the point that it doesn't matter who I hurt, because we're operating from fear. Currently, we're in the midst of the pandemic. We're in the midst of censorship. Anything that could help people feel safe that comes from any source other than the government, who we have been conditioned to believe is the only safe source of safety. When we are taught that the government is where all of our safety comes from, we become a slave to that programming. Now we have to do what they tell us for us to be okay. If medicine and healing, if healing comes from the outside, we need those doctors to keep us safe. If safety comes from money, we need to do what the boss says to keep us safe, or the government who's giving us the entitlement keeps us safe. We go external to stay safe. All of our safety comes from the outside. That's the programming. So what is this bridge all about? It's thousands of years we have had teachers. Buddha came in 2,500 years ago. Jesus 2,000 years ago. Many other teachers recently. Osho was here not that long ago. Jesus has come back to give us information through A Course in Miracles, channeled from that consciousness known as Jesus, that gives us information through so many different avenues. So what has happened to us is that we are beginning to see that the systems that were supposed to keep us safe are no longer keeping us safe. They're scaring us. They're causing us to rat on one another, to tell on our neighbor who's not vaccinated, to tell on the neighbor who is pro-Trump versus pro-Biden, to begin to indoctrinate us deeper into giving up total, complete sovereignty. We have very little sovereignty left, but as long as we're chasing safety, we are under the control of those who think that they are the only ones who are sovereign, those who think that they are the boss of us. This journey to awaken is to question the programming, and everything is breaking down. We have to question who really is telling us the truth. If you have not done the work of questioning your programming and discover your divinity, align with God and begin to feel one with all that is, so that you can have a real, beautiful and clear sense of understanding of what's happening, you can't tell the difference between what is being fed to you from the outside for the purpose of controlling you, when they dangle the idea of safety in front of you, or the idea of health in front of you. In essence, we have been enslaved in this system, because when you're afraid, you're not in control of anything. You really aren't. You give up your control to the one that you think is going to keep you safe. To connect with God, to find our sovereignty, means that we need to begin to say no to what does not feel in resonance with us. If it's not vibrationally resonant, you don't want to participate in that. Well, humanity is at the place that we have to make a choice. These systems are crumbling. They're not sustainable. The money system is breaking down. The health system is breaking down. The government system is breaking down. Education system that does a lot of the programming, the indoctrination. The religious systems, we can't rely on those things much. They're breaking down because they're letting us know, which is a beautiful thing, that they're no longer sustainable, because humanity has been crossing the bridge, bringing God back inside, which religion said was outside, bringing sovereignty back inside, which the government says they're the ones in charge of us, bringing our healing power, accessing it really, because it's always been in there, accessing our own healing power by realizing that the only way that we are going to be able to save this world from what's happening to it is if we unite equally, all of us, recognizing that we have been endowed with the exact same inalienable rights. Even the U.S. Constitution protects that because it's given by God, which is so amazing. When we begin to see each other as equals, we begin to activate a love that heals, a love that unites, a love that allows us to recognize the sovereignty of every being. When we move to the place of recognizing our sovereignty because God granted it to us, and so is everybody else, there is no need for control. What happens is you get curious. Our curiosity, our mind opens. We move out of programming and we move into the place of paradise, into the place of, oh my gosh, what else is there that we can possibly do? This is the realm of expansion. This is the realm of contraction. We have all been condensed into small people. So limited has our mind become, but we need to ascend to the truth of who we are. Let me show you about ascension. I'm going to flip this. This is where we are headed. The 3D world, we need to move up. Ascension is the process of understanding that we are energy, vibration. The higher frequency is when we're connected with God, we're expanded. The lower frequencies is when we have been contracted into believing what is programmed in our mind, that we're a finite little individual being operating from fear, chasing the good, avoiding the bad. Why do you think people numb themselves with sex, drug, and rock and roll? Because this is something that's impossible to ever achieve happiness, because we don't understand that loving yourself is what allows you to feel the peace that passes all understanding. But we can't love ourselves because our mind is trained to operate from fear. When we are one with God and we're curious, we're operating in a state of total and complete oneness. Our mind is expanded. We are operating with all that is. Our mind is wide open. What happens is, as we descend into the world, we little by little, this is by choice, a soul decides to be born and enter into planet Earth. And in planet Earth, we get indoctrinated and live out as who we are choosing to be, knowing that we can ascend. But when we get programmed with fear and our ego takes over and this becomes our master, we descend into a very small idea of who we are. So our mind has been indoctrinated and turned into a slave, and we operate with a tiny, tiny idea of who we are. This is very dense, low energy, very constricted. This is why we get depressed, because we suppress who we really are. It gets condensed. And this journey from here to here is about vibration. Are you operating in a tight idea of who you are, small, thinking small? Your divinity, you have no access to your divinity. Or are you operating from the truth of who you are, higher frequency? This is the love frequency. This is the fear frequency. This is where evil resides. And in the world, we're seeing a lot of evil, because evil is the opposite, the backwards of to live. This is why we were given life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You can only be happy if you are who you are, free to be who you are, with no fear about anybody else, totally and completely in sovereignty of who you are, so that you can be curious, open your mind, and access God's mind. Liberty, sovereignty, same thing. You can't be seeking safety. You can't be ready to turn in your neighbor, because that's not to love your neighbor as yourself. To turn in your neighbor because you want to stay safe. You want to do what the government tells you to do so that you can get the money, with these vaccine passports. This is all about control. It's all about control and suppressing our abilities to express ourselves. They're telling us who we need to be, because we sold out looking for safety in all the wrong places. Sovereignty means that your safety comes from God inside. This is where give me liberty or give me death, because you're not bound by a body. You're no longer concerned, like Jesus exampled for us. He didn't mind being crucified, because he was showing that he is the resurrection. Ascension is a resurrection. But we got to be willing to crucify all of the ways that we condensed ourselves into such a tiny, mad idea of being just finite, individual little beings that only a few, the 1% of the 1% can control us. That's what this world of 3D is that we are leaving. We need to come alive inside again. We need to become stewards of what has been given to us. So the evil that runs the world is becoming more evident. Most of us don't want to believe that that's what it is, but it is, because it's part of the low frequency that we can descend to. Most of us are not that low. Humanity is somewhere in the middle. Right now, we are either going to choose to cross the bridge and move towards love, and remove the programming that's in our head that tells us that we can't be loving to one another, that has us in competition with one another. We need to make the choice to, are we going to clean that up and move into collaboration and cooperation and create a new earth? And because we are the ones who create the new earth through our choice to treat each other equally. Here, you can stay there. And the world is beginning to split. The states are beginning to split in America, because it's okay. Those who want to be under control, they can do that. Equality says everybody can do whatever they want to do. Liberty says everybody can do what they want to do. But those who want to be sovereign are not going to participate in this. Families are going to be split apart. Jobs are going to go away for people who are not willing to take the job. If they want to be free, they can operate under control. If they want to be free to treat their bodies in whatever method they want to treat their bodies, healing internally through shamanic ways, through natural ways, they're not going to accept control from the outside. Anyways, I just wanted to leave you with this message. You are choosing between safety or sovereignty, between ego and God, between love and fear at all times. Today, more than ever, if you don't understand what love is all about, what God is all about, which is in you and activated, it's the only way you're going to find your sovereignty. You got to allow that to emerge, to transcend the programming, to move beyond your mental idea of who you are. You're not going to be able to experience the freedom that comes from that. If you are still in fear, please reach out to somebody who can assist you. There are so many teachers, coaches, healers out in the world. I love assisting. I've been doing this since 2007. I've helped thousands of people cross that bridge. And I would love to help you. Go to my website, lainaorlando.com. Go to my YouTubes. Find me on social media. I got lots and lots of classes. Every Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I offer Ascension with A Course in Miracles. Help people who are ascending. You got to understand what keeps you down here so that you can move up here. I'll leave you with something from the Bible. Very few things that I quote from the Bible. As I said earlier, I don't really know it. But you shall be transformed through the renewal of your mind. Our mind is where all the programming is. We've received all kinds of programming. Our ego is created with mental programming. It allows us to give our sovereignty away in return for fake safety. We need to renew our mind, bring in new information so that we can transform ourselves. Thanks a bunch. And if this helps you, blesses you in any way, shape, or form, I'm grateful that I was used to do that for a holy brother and sisters, because we truly are one. I love you.